Welcome to Content with Character, the weekly podcast that'll give you the momentum you need to create content with more ease, clarity, and laughter. I'm your host, content copywriter Emily Aborn, and I'm all about unconventional marketing approaches. I believe in your big ideas, and I'm excited to help you share them in a way that's distinctly you. So, you need to write about yourself. Maybe you're a guest speaker, you're going to be on someone else's podcast, maybe you're working on your about page or profile for an organization that you're a part of, or you're refreshing your LinkedIn because it's spring cleaning in August this year. How do you convey who you are, what you offer, and what sets you apart in a concise and memorable way? This episode is going to help you to do just that. Oh, hello. Welcome back. Happy halfway through August. August is moving at quite the clip, I gotta say, but it's not too bad. It's not like unmanageably fast. I have a lot of copywriting projects on my plate right now, like a lot. So I have my head down, but I'm loving every second of it. And the pace is a-okay. Summer is like my favorite. I think I've said this many, many times, but I do feel that August is finally delivering just like a little bit better than old July did as far as like the heat and the proper sunshine. So I'm loving it. Anyway, enough weather, small talk, calendar chat. I am excited to be here again with you this week. This week, we're going to be talking about you, as we usually do, but we're going to talk about how to talk about yourself more easily and comfortably. And I want you to make sure that you stay until the end because I'm going to be sharing a resource that I whipped up to help you out as you get into this too. But before we get into what I'm going to call bio building fun today, I do want to introduce myself, and I also want to give you the review of the week. And I think we're actually going to reverse order that and start with the review. So this one comes from Star D111. Listen to Emily if you are a new or experienced entrepreneur. I met Emily in person in 2015 and knew she was special and talented. And now listening to her, I know it. As an entrepreneur of over 20 years, I wish I had someone like her to listen when I started. She's direct, practical, warm, funny, and to the point. She breaks down what visibility is and shows us that it's more than showing up, it's connecting. It's being committed to showing up for yourself and as yourself, listening to yourself. So many things I've tried, failed, and pivoted on over the years. So much of what she said, I shook my head, yes, yes, yes. She's now on my regular to-play list. Thank you, Star D111. Listen to Emily. She says it clearly, funny, and oh so well. Thank you so much. And as always, I, arms open, welcome your positive, loving reviews on Apple Podcasts. And I do try to read them on my show so you can get your moment in the sun too. So thank you so much to Star D111. Your reviews really do help me help you. So thank you. All right. This week, when I introduce myself, I'm going to do it in a way that gives you an example of what I'm sharing today because I always like to say things in one way, explain them again, and then provide you with an example or like it in action whenever possible. So if you are new here, hello, welcome. I'm Emily Aborn. I'm currently working on a website for an interior designer, as well as whipping up a content bank with emails and social posts for an executive leadership coach. Lately, my copywriting clients have been sharing with me that they like working with me and they become repeat clients because they love that I am super organized. They also like that I am very passionate and enthusiastic about their businesses, which is a huge plus when you are a content writer because it comes through in the work that you do. And as you can hear by the sound of my voice, I'm also a podcast host, which is yet another place I get to let out all my excitement for all the things content and visibility marketing. I love helping people. I love sparing people from banging their head against the keyboard by taking all of that written stuff off of their plate and doing it for them. And I also love working with people in groups and one-to-one to guide them to create it on their own. Little fun fact about me, I've moved 27 times, might actually be more than that. I think I missed a couple when I was counting. And no, I was not an army kid or anything like that, but needless to say, I am quite good at packing, which is probably why I'm so organized. I love my home today, and I've lived here since 2016, and I truly believe, which is another reason I think I resonate so much with interior designers as my clients, I truly believe in the power of home to just like get your day started off on the right foot. give you a place to come home to at the end of a long day so that you can always show up your very best in the world. All right. So that was me in a nutshell. And I wanted to share about myself in that way just to show you some of the little parts and pieces that we're going to actually be pulling out today when talking about you. And I'm obviously not going to keep on going on about myself because today's episode is you and all about how to talk about yourself. And that's what everybody likes to talk about most anyway, isn't it? I actually think it's split on that. I don't think some people like talking about themselves. And I also think that for those who do like talking about themselves, it might depend on the circumstances and how it feels on the other side. Anyway, we will get into the psychological side of talking about yourself at a later date and time. Today, let's just talk about why and also when that you might need to talk about yourself, especially when you are working to increase your visibility. The time is going to come for you very soon when you will need to talk about yourself and or write about yourself. And I would venture to say that time has already come. That time is now. So that might look like writing a bio for LinkedIn. It might look like writing a bio that you send a podcast host ahead of you so that they can properly introduce you on their show. It might look like a bio that you're going to send in for a speaking engagement so that, when they bring you out in front of the group, they have something to read. It might look like a bio for your Facebook business page, your about page, and lots more. It's also probably going to look like a couple of social media posts. I recently actually had 2 examples of why the social media post specifically is so important to keep on sharing. And it's kind of like a little case in point as why we actually do need to talk about ourselves online and do it regularly and also do it in a way that's clear and concise and understandable. So I'm going to give you 2 quick examples. An online connection of mine who I actually do communicate with quite regularly, I had her in my mind that she only did like one thing and one thing only. So I had like this vision of her in my mind that like, this is what she did. Now, she had been talking about this thing a lot online as a service. And it was in the little description in her Instagram bio and also on LinkedIn. But what I didn't know is that she actually also did, let's just say, like I knew she did XYZ, or I knew she did XY and I didn't know she did Z. It was actually really helpful for me when I found out that she did this particular service because there was an opportunity there for me to be able to pass her some referrals when it wasn't 100% in line with services that I was offering my clients. So what happened was that she reached out to me and she was like looking for a client of a certain nature, let's just say. And I was like, oh, I literally had no idea that you did that. But I just got off the phone with somebody I had to turn away because they were looking for that and I don't do that. And so when I said that to her, she realized, oh, I have not been talking about that. I haven't even really been talking about all like what I do. And there are probably other people out there who are confused by it as well, thinking I only do XY when reality I do XYZ. So she made a post reintroducing herself and reintroducing her services in a really clear, specific, concise way. Now, this also, to turn the example on how like I've gone wrong in this too, or not wrong, but just, have room to grow. This also happened to me. Ironically, it was a person with the exact same name, though different spelling. And it was flipped this way where they didn't know what I did. Now, we hadn't seen each other in a while, and when we got together, we were like chit-chatting and she asked me in a nutshell, like, what do you do to make money? Like kind of the way it was asked was, is my podcast my only source of income? Which I actually found very funny. And yes, goals, right? Okay, goals. I think some of my family members think that too. They think I'm just a podcaster, which is hilarious. But no, I am not only a podcaster. I'm a content copywriter. That is actually like my business. And there are a lot of people, I want to say, who have known me for a long time and been connected to me and been part of my world for a long time who may not have even known that. So that conversation sparked a reminder for me to talk about myself. And I also went ahead and made a post similar to the woman I had described before. And of course, now that ripple effect is you're getting a reminder from me also. But here's the reminder or just encouragement, like we have to talk about ourselves. People are busy, they're moving fast, and as I recently learned, they're pretty much not paying attention to anything at all, anyone at all, except for themselves. And I am also guilty of this, like hand raised, but we have to keep reminding them of who we are, what we do, who we help, how we help. And just another little thing on that, like it is not annoying. It is not annoying. It's not repeating yourself. This is called consistently. So perhaps for you, you'll need a social media post soon. Let's just say soon if you haven't done one in a while, where you introduce yourself. Or maybe you reintroduce yourself to your newsletter. Or maybe you have a podcast and you have not reminded your audience of who you are and what you do. So I want this episode to be like a little bit of an inspiration for you, but also like how to actually do that with like ease and confidence and clarity. The other thing I just want us to all keep in mind is you never know, and I heard this recently on a podcast I did with Adam Adams, that episode will come out soon. But you just never know, like, when somebody is entering your world. So, like, for a lot of people, this might be their first encounter with you. They don't actually know you. They've never listened to your show before. Maybe they just started following you on social media. Maybe they just subscribed to your newsletter yet. Like, they truly don't know us yet. And so we have to actually welcome them in and tell them. And that so applies to LinkedIn and also like your about page on your website or just your website in general. So here are some places that you should be or could be, I'm going to say, talking about yourself. Places you might need words, written words, to share who you are and what you do. And then we're going to go into the way to do that today. So here are the places. Your about page, your LinkedIn, Facebook page, Instagram, whatever other social media you have that has like a bio, a spot for a bio out there. Before you get brought on stage or onto Zoom as a speaker, when you are introducing yourself in a workshop, in podcast episodes you do of your own, in podcast episodes that you're going to be a guest on, probably, like I said, at family parties and functions and on soccer field sidelines and at networking events. And we are going to get into the spoken ones in a future episode. Today, I'm just going to focus on the written ways to talk about yourself. And I'm 100% sure that I missed some because there are places all over the internet where we share who we are and what we do. Probably like in Facebook groups is another spot. So how do you talk about yourself? How do you make it comfortable? How do you do it in a way that takes into account not who you're talking to and also like the different formats in which you're sharing? I'm going to walk you through some of these basics and I'm going to leave you with how to get started for yourself. So that way you can get that pen to paper, that pencil to paper, or those fingers to your Google Doc, whatever that looks like for you. But I want us to keep in mind this. We're gonna circle back on this at the end, and I'm gonna remind you again because I think this is really, really important. A bio, talking about ourselves, that can be a bridge. You always hear me say that content is a bridge, visibility is a two-way street, but it's true. Talking about ourselves, creating this bio that we're putting online, it is a bridge. It is a bridge between who we're talking to and us. And what I want you to remember is that this is an opportunity to make a connection. We have to kind of like give them a reason to care. And a lot of that comes down to showing them that we care too. Motivational pep talk over. Let us begin. Okay, I do a bio spruce up service for my clients. And the way that I do it is I ask them a series of questions. And then I take their answers and I spin it from straw, let's say, into bio gold with how they kind of reply. Now, the goal is to, at the end of it, clearly show who they work with, why they work with them, I want them to show that they really understand these people and also what makes them different than like basically everybody else in the industry. So I thought I would kind of say, you know what, I'm going to pass these questions along to you to start reflecting on for yourself. And then I'm going to give you some pointers and tips on how to like kind of put it all together and a way to get started and make it simple. So question number 1, this is going to be a no-brainer seemingly, right? What do you actually do? Like I said, this is the easy part, but I'm going to toss you a curveball here. Because there are some of you for whom this is a relatively simple answer. I'm a travel agent. I'm a nutrition coach. I'm a website designer. I'm a photographer. I'm a writer. I'm a painter. Easy peasy. My 8-year-old nephew could understand what you do. But then there are those of you who are very much overcomplicating what you do, or it's just like a little bit vague. And I'm going to give some examples. I'm not thinking of anyone in particular. I did not Google this or Google any specific people. So do not hurt me and come after me if I'm sharing what you do here or how you say it. But here are some examples I thought of. Embodiment guide, authenticity coach, creative, time management diva, creator of fun, transformational coach. Okay, these are kind of hard to understand. Not because they're not in English and they're difficult words, they're just not 100% clear. And some people don't know what those words mean, or the words are used so often online that they've just kind of lost their meaning. They've lost that oomph, if you will. So if your title is along the lines of vague, I want you to think about how to kind of simplify it just a little bit, maybe clear up some of the jargon, or if it's full of complex language, that's another area that you can just make it a little bit simpler to understand what you do. You can always bring in these fun taglines and these fun descriptors later. We're going to get into that, but how can you simplify it just a little bit so that even a kid can understand what you do right away? So that even a kid would say, oh, you need my Auntie Emily to write your website copy for you because she's a website copywriter. She writes websites. She does things online. She writes things online. Take that or leave that for what it's worth. But it is something I do see people making as a mistake often. And again, you can get quippy and cute in different places, but maybe when you're just simply describing what you do, you keep it really, really simple. Also, sidebar. This is very random, but a delivery driver just pulled into my driveway at this moment, and I had to pause because their music is blasting, and it is hilarious. Think Disney tunes or show tunes, music from a musical or something. I don't know. I had to pause. It was so loud, and I shut my window, but it was also so funny. Okay, well, there's a fun, you know what? Actually, let's use that sidebar. Let's use that segue because there is a fun fact that delivery driver could use right there. Because judging by their musical taste, from what I just heard, that is the world's happiest delivery driver. And we'll get into that a little bit more and on the specifics of that. But anyway, so you've got your title down. Right? You've got your title down. And that's an actual way to do it is just add an adjective before your title. If you want to be super cute and quippy. Okay. So now that you have your title down, you know what you do. You know who you are. Let's move on to question number 2. Question number 2, who do you love working with? Now, I am not really the person that says you need to nail down one single client avatar or just have one niche. I don't really believe that. I mean, it's fine for some, you know what? It's fine for some people and it's not necessary for all of us. So I know that we hear that in a lot of places that you need to niche down, have one avatar, but you don't. You can love working with all sorts of different people. All humans are allowed to be welcome here. I would, however, recommend that you only try talking to one type of person or one sort of problem or challenge that they might face at a time. Or if you want to talk to a lot of different kinds of people, try creatively weaving them together with a common bond, a common thread. And we'll get into that just a little bit more. Here's what I do. I look at all my favorite clients. I go through this about 4 times a year, I would say. and I write down their names. And then I write down their industries or professions, what they came to me for. And then I write down what made them my favorite client to work with or my favorite collaborator in some case. So this is how I'm able to find like my common denominators. And when I talk about that, I do get into specifics in some situations. Like for example, I love working with people who are kind. I really, really love people who are willing to trust me and respect me with the process. I've had some instances where I haven't had that in a client, and it can be really, really frustrating for both of us and hard to work with for both of us. So sometimes I will get into those kind of specifics like kind, respectful, trusting, that's neither here nor there right now. I just kind of want to speak to these common denominators. So for me, my common denominators, my who is interior designers, website designers, podcasters, and then women entrepreneurs, specifically with service-based businesses. So I will work with people outside of those areas, definitely people outside of those industries. I've worked with 96 different industries, but those are the 4 that I use consistently in my copy and my social media posts and my LinkedIn bio. Those are the 4 that I speak to specifically. On this podcast, I'm talking to solopreneurs and people who are in charge of maybe like a very small to medium team of individuals, but they're really the ones responsible for steering the ship. So I'm really talking to the person who is in charge of their own business. On my She Built This podcast, it is for, I'm talking to curious-minded, growth-oriented women entrepreneurs and the people in their lives who support women in entrepreneurship. So those are the people I'm specifically speaking to. And I think that that's really important to start asking yourself, like, who do I work with? Or who would I absolutely love to be working with? Like, who is my dream client? And if you don't have a dream client, that's okay. Who have been your favorite clients and why? What has made them your favorite clients? So that's question number 2 is, who do you work with? Question number 3, what do you like to do? What do you do? You don't have to list out all of your services. And like that example of the woman I gave you before, I think that it's important to highlight different pieces of your services at different times and draw attention to different things that you're trying to get shared at different times in your business. So you might not put it all into one spot. Like, note how at the beginning of this podcast, I said I take the writing off your plate and I guide people how to create content for themselves. I didn't sit here and list out like all the workshops that I do. I write blogs, newsletters, social copy, website copy, welcome packets. But I mean, here I'm doing that now, but this is just to make a point. Like, you can just say the types of work you love to do with people. Some really simple examples: I provide legal support. I offer consulting services. I do bookkeeping. I handle all aspects of travel from A to Z. I coach people out of overwhelm. If you get stuck, a great way to if you get stuck on how to make this kind of like concise and clear, think of a project that you're working on right now that you're really, really enjoying. So I love this as a start to anybody asking us who we are and what we do. I love answering with what you're working on right now, which you also heard me do at the beginning. Like, right now I'm working on X with this kind of person. So like I said, like right now I'm working on a website copy for an interior designer. And that actually makes a really great little blurb about who you are and what you do and also who you help serve, right? So what do you do? That is question number 3. And once again, if you do offer different services, there's another piece of this where, like, a lot of times when we offer different services, we're also trying to work with a different type of person. So like the people you work with in groups might look different than the people that you work with one-to-one. So keep that in mind too. When you are listing out your projects and services or your services and products, think about like, is that a different person when I'm talking about that thing? Okay, next up, question 4. What makes you unique and different? What do you do? I want you to really think about this one. What do you do that other people in your industry do not do? And a good way to look at this is like, what are other people in your industry doing that really gets under your skin? Or what is something that your clients come to you and say, you know, I had a conversation with so-and-so, another website designer, and they didn't have XYZ. Or here's a good one actually for a website designer, since I'm thinking on the fly here. Here's a good one for a website designer. You know, after I got my website back, I had literally no idea how to update any of my own content. Like I could not navigate it. I had no idea. It was like gibberish in the back end. So as a website designer, maybe you set yourself apart by saying like, look, in the handoff, like it's really, really important for me to show you how to use your site so that you can add blogs for yourself, so that you can update things for yourself, you know, and I'm here to handle all the tech stuff, but I want you to be able to change the content or add pages or change pages for yourself. Like that's really, really something that could help you as a website designer stand out if that's what you do. Don't obviously say something that you don't do. But my point here is try not to be generic. Like also try not to lean too heavily on just like any educational experience you have, which I do think that is important in some cases. And I want to get to that. Don't worry. But here are some examples of some really specific, like what makes me unique, what sets me apart that I've seen recently and I liked. So here's one. I am a consultant. This is a consultant, okay? I focus on the numbers to provide you with a clear strategy that gets you results in your business. Now, this person goes into that even more in her about section on her website, how she just really understands. She has an in-depth understanding of numbers in our businesses, what that means, what it translates to, and she really relies on that data to help business owners steer their decisions in what they should be doing. Now, I would venture to say that does not apply to all of the consultants out there, okay? They're not all focusing on that piece in a business. Here's another one. A women's wellness coach. I bring intuition, empathy, warmth to my work with every single client I work with. I provide you with options to explore a natural whole foods approach in your healing. And what I loved about this one is she goes on to kind of say, this is not about biohacks and multi-level marketing shakes and what everybody else is telling you should do. Counting calories, like that kind of thing. So I really loved that one. And then lastly, just using myself as an example, I am very organized. I am very streamlined in my process. I have a solid process. I am very responsive. So I always get people a reply within a relatively short amount of time. And I'm really enthusiastic and also honest. So I'm going to tell my clients like the truth when it comes to, I'm not going to try to sell them anything more. And I'm going to be really open and upfront with them about like what I really, really see as what they need. So that's the things that my clients say all the time that they really love and appreciate about working with me. And website designers, when I'm speaking specifically to them, they really, like one of my superpowers with website designers is they really appreciate that I keep the project on track because I am organized and I do communicate very, very clearly with the client. So if you don't know what sets you apart, here's how you can figure it out. You can look at or listen to what your clients tell you they love about you. Remember how I read that review at the beginning of the episode? So one of the things in that, and I'm only using myself as an example so you can see how this breaks down for you. But if you have reviews on your business on Google or Facebook or wherever people write reviews for you, you can do the same thing. So you can go in and look and say, oh, my clients are consistently saying that I'm direct, practical, warm, funny, and to the point. Like that is really what sets you apart. Not every single podcaster is like that. Not every single person talking about marketing is like that. So if you can't figure out off the top of your head what sets you apart, what makes you different, look at what your clients tell you that they love about you, or what your listeners tell you about what they love about you. And we are going to do a whole entire episode soon on like how to get clients to tell you what they love about you. But here's one thing you could do literally today. You could just reach out and ask maybe one of your clients who recently really, really enjoyed working with you and be like, hey, Sally, out of curiosity, do you mind sharing with me like what you think sets me apart or why you chose to come work with me again? That's a really good way to help yourself find out what sets you apart. Okay, there are other things in this too. Maybe your years of experience do set you apart. Maybe your education does set you apart, or the specific niche or the specific type of project you offer really, really sets you apart. For example, I don't do sales pages. I do not do them. I do not love them. I don't offer them. I send people to a person I know who is listening right now. It's a very specific person who I know does sales pages. And how do I know that she does them? Because she is always very incredibly specific in saying that she offers this specific niche, turnkey sales pages, and goes on to say like she loves them. She's invested time into learning the psychology and the design behind them. So that's what I'm talking about. That is the stuff that sets you apart and helps you to be memorable so that instantly your name pops to mind when someone is looking for the solution to that problem or that exact product or that exact service. So that's the stuff that like really sets us apart and the stuff I really, really love. Another thing that sets you apart is your humanness, right? Like your human characteristics. So here's a little fun activity. I think I actually may have recommended this to you before, but here's what you do. You sit down and you get your pen and paper out. I recommend a pen and paper or pencil and paper for this. Like I think that there's something magical, extra magical about writing it. But this is literally called the magic list. And I did not come up with this activity on my own. I first read it in Julie Eason's book, The 5 Author Freakouts, which I will put the link in the show notes as always. And I think that Julie actually credited somebody else with the original idea. But the magic list is your 60 positive adjectives that describe you. So you're going to sit down and you're going to write 60 adjectives that describe you. Now, the key is once you start writing down those adjectives, do not stop. Don't stop at 20. Don't stop at 25. Don't stop at 40. You're going to want to stop. Trust me. You're going to be like, this is uncomfortable. I cannot think of any more adjectives. Keep going. Keep going until you get 60. 60 words that together are you and only you. And not just you and only you, the very best parts of you. Like you always have that to look at when you are lacking belief in yourself or you're lacking courage, or you're lacking confidence. Like those are your magical words. Nobody else in this world is that unique flavor. I'd be hard pressed to think that somebody would come up with the exact 60 words that you have written down on that paper. Now, here's another little fun part. Those 60 words you can use on any given occasion to describe yourself and others, to others, and what sets you apart. And I just want to remind us all that like even if you're a brand, even if you are a product, you still have human characteristics. So these 60 words, you can do this with your product or with your brand also. In fact, I recently did this with somebody's program. So she's launching a new program and we sat down and made 60 words, 60 adjectives that described that program. So it's like the actual human feel that we want people to have in experiencing that program. It's really, really fun. And like I said, like you can use these 60 words in so many other ways to describe yourself and show what sets you apart. Okay, last question for the episode. Question number 5. What gets you out of bed in the morning? Try to think outside the box here and get creative on things besides coffee and your dog whining to go to the bathroom. I mean, it might also be coffee and your dog whining, but I want you to think of more. And that means you might have to like sit with that for a little bit. So here are some of my answers. Like, here's what gets me, Emily Aborn, out of bed in the morning. Okay. Connection with other people, with nature. That gets me out of bed in the morning. What can I learn today? That question gets me out of bed in the morning. My family and friends, and knowing that I'm like going to get to see them or spend time with them gets me out of bed in the morning. My fingers twitching because they have to write and create gets me out of bed in the morning. Word games get me out of bed in the morning. The beautiful routine and joy of my simple life and just like savoring that and the opportunity to savor it gets me out of bed in the morning. And then in addition to all of that, of course, Clyde's full bladder. Clyde is my dog, or my full bladder. Okay, so putting this all together, we have a lot to work with. We have a lot about not just who we are, but we also have a lot about like who we're talking to. And so now I want you to kind of like, you're going to sit with that and then you're going to pull it together and start writing those bios. And I'm going to give you just some really, really simple tips, but let's recap those 5 questions. Okay. What do you actually do? Who do you love working with? What do you like to do most in your business, or what are you working on right now? What sets you apart? And then what gets you out of bed in the morning? You can start taking these answers and writing down long and messy. Like just make it weird, make it messy, make it sloppy. Just put it on paper or in a Google Doc or on the Notes app on your phone or in a voice memo, get it out. Then you can tidy it up and use these simple tips. With every single version you create, I want you to remember this. You are speaking to just one individual. You are just speaking to one person. So close your eyes, envision who is receiving this, what matters to them, and speak directly to them. Make it clear, understandable, and if you do, you will often make their little hearts just melt because you saw them in what you shared. My other little reminder here is create a few different versions. Like this is where you get to have fun. You're like, oh, I can't choose. I don't know which one to pick. You don't need to. You can create a couple different versions. You can create a few different social media posts. And by the way, each and every single adjective that you wrote down, that is an entire social media post waiting to happen. Like if you wrote down original as an adjective, okay, what does that mean? What does original mean to you? Did you write creative down as an adjective? Okay, how does that help your clients? How did you know you were a creative? Were you always a creative? Did you write kind as one of your adjectives? Why is that important to you? Why is that important to your clients? So your magic list, it is truly magical, I tell you what. And you can really, really have a lot of fun with it. So anyway, your different versions are going to look a little bit different. Like you will have some, once you get it kind of all out there, you might break them down. So you might break down some into social media posts. If you're actually going like bio, like Emily, I'm just like working on my bio. I recommend doing 3 versions of your bio. Listen closely, my friend. Okay, so you're going to have like a 150 word version, approximately. These are just approximates. 150 word version, a 50 to 75 word version, and also practice or do one in first person and also one in third person. Now, that 150 word version, that's going to be great for like your LinkedIn bio, places where you have a little bit more like leg room. That 50 to 75 word version, that's usually the sweet spot when it comes to somebody else reading your bio. So when you are a speaker, when you are a podcast guest, I find that tends to be the sweet spot, 50 to 75 words. And then create a first person version and a third person version. So for example, if I'm a guest on a podcast or a workshop speaker, I don't want them reading my bio and saying like, I'm a content copywriter and podcast host. I want them to say Emily Aborn is a content copywriter and podcast host. I want to save them the time of having to edit that themselves. So I have those bios all available in that first person when I'm introducing myself and also third person when somebody else is introducing me. So that's what I recommend. I mean, that's a little bit of work, but I think if you dedicate some time to it and you sit down, you'll be really, really happy that you have all of these versions at the ready. The other thing that I like to do, and this is just like a little tip, is on LinkedIn, you can create, you have quite a bit of legroom on LinkedIn. So one thing that I really like to do is put this like what sets me apart section on LinkedIn. And this is where you really can take some of those unique things about yourself and what sets you apart and bullet them out. You can do it on social. You can repurpose this and use it as a standalone post. You can sprinkle in some emojis if you want. And then we'll get into this in next week's episode, but you can also use these things down the road on your About page too. So create different versions of your bio. And here's the other great thing I love about that. This is totally up to you, but I love that it also gives you an opportunity, a chance to experiment and see what lands with people and what engages what kind of people. So when you have those different sort of bios, different versions of your bio, you kind of get an opportunity to see like what lands where, and it's good information for you. Okay, I think we're on tip number 3. Tip number 3, some people love to add in with their bio a hook of some sort. So here's a couple I saw when I was searching around for these. Quote, I'm extremely good at one thing, guiding you to make the decisions that matter most with your money. That's a nice hook. Here's another one. Wait, don't sign that contract. What I would say is if you decide to do a hook, please avoid using like, I know because I am you, or I get it, or I've been there too, or something that's just kind of like overly generic and a little bit overused. Also, there's a lot actually online right now about people saying that they don't love when people use wording like this. And I'm going to tell you why, because we think that it's empathetic, but actually sometimes it has the opposite effect. It has the opposite effect of empathy because people are looking at it and they're like, do you know me, Timmy? Like, have you been me? No, you don't get it. So be cautious with that one as your hook. And I don't know, I'm not good with hooks. Like I'm really not. So ask ChatGPT for a hook help if you get stuck. Like, I don't know. I don't think a hook is necessary, but it is a good fit for some people. And I could see some instances like I really loved this one. I'm extremely good at one thing, guiding you to make the decisions that matter most with your money. That's nice. That is a nice hook. Okay. Tip number 4. Add in a fun fact or 2. Maybe it's what you do in your free time, or like I said at the beginning, that you've moved 27 times in your life. If you're like, Emily, I have no fun facts, I hate fun facts, fine, I don't care. Share a boring fact. Like I leave globs of toothpaste in the sink when I'm brushing my teeth too fast and overly excited to get started on my workday. That's a very boring fact. Share a boring fact. Share, instead of the fact that you've written a book or that you've been skydiving, be like, okay, I've never written a book and I've never been skydiving, but someday I would like to. Or I like blankets. I like tea. It doesn't matter. Share a boring fact if you can't think of a fun one. And obviously, all of these little tips are like all your choice. But I think that boring facts are what make us human and what they can be really, really fun. So seriously, I think that they can be fun. So share a boring fact if you can't think of a fun one. And as always, all of these tips are always optional. But okay, last one, tip number 5, be specific. Be specific. The more specific you are, the better. The more you say anyone who, or everyone who, or all people, the less it's going to land with any one single person. And I am not the only one who thinks this. Here are some quotes on the importance of specificity. And then I promise we're going to tie this all in a little bow and I'll send you off to get started. Here's a quote by Jacqueline Woodson. The more specific we are, the more universal something can become. I just love that. Life is in the details. If you generalize it, it doesn't resonate. The specificity of it is what resonates. I love that. So that's by Jacqueline Woodson. Everyone is not your customer. Seth Godin. The everybody products are already taken. Also Seth Godin. People won't remember the story about a flower until you tell them it was an orchid. That's not a quote. I just literally thought of it just now. But it's true. People don't remember the story about a flower. They remember the story about an orchid. So I want to encourage you in this. You are one of a kind. You are a one-of-a-kind human being, and you work with other great one-of-a-kind human beings. So a good bio, when you talk about yourself, it is really about bridging these two things together, showing that you care and giving them a reason to care. And that bridges them together in the very best of ways. And I didn't want to leave you hanging on like trying this alone or like remembering everything I said in this episode or jotting down notes or anything. So I created a bio builder, which you can find at the link in my show notes. I almost said the link in my bio because I'm so used to saying that. Now, before you run off to go get this from the link in the show notes, please just be kind because this is not fancy. I will probably fancy this up later, but I really wanted to get it to you in time to go with this episode. So it is a PDF. It is like basically a worksheet. You'll get it right to your email, and you can basically print it out and sit down and start working on this stuff for yourself. And probably the best part about this worksheet is that it is totally free to you. So the link is in the show notes for that. Also, if this all sounds like really overwhelming to you and you're like, Emily, I would just prefer you provide the word wizardry. You do my bio for me, whether that be your about page or your LinkedIn profile. Like this is something I do offer. And so I give it for $175. I don't do about pages for that much, but I do a bio for $175, and I give you three versions of your bio, plus really like simple, easy to implement suggestions that I might have for your LinkedIn profile as well. So the link for that service will be in the show notes as well. And next week, I'm going to tell you where we're going next week and beyond. Next week, we're going to talk about your about page. Is it about you? We're going to settle the debate. I don't know if we're going to settle the debate because I don't like to lead the witness, but we're going to settle the debate. Is your about page about you? After that, we're going to talk about how to get your clients to talk about you. Like it's great to talk about yourself, but how do you get other people to talk about you? And then we're going to talk about how to talk about yourself in a networking setting, like how to actually use that voice of yours to connect with other people when you're out and about. So next week's episode, do not miss it. Same time, same place, same bad station. I cannot wait to talk with you more about you next week. Cannot wait. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Content with Character. If you loved the episode, please make sure to subscribe to the podcast, rate, review, and share it with someone else you know it could help. For more content and visibility tips, visit my blog at emilyaborn.com, and be sure to connect with me on Instagram at emilyaborn. I'd love to hear how this inspired you to take action.